For decades, standard corporate strategy treated payroll as a pure mathematical equation. Success meant looking at the ledger and shrinking numbers to protect the margins. If you operate a business in Calabarzon, the process is straightforward. You follow the latest rate set by the Regional Tripartite Wages and Productivity Board. Once that legally mandated number is plugged into the payroll system, many companies consider their labor obligations entirely fulfilled. The minimum wage is the absolute legal floor, the lowest amount a company can pay its workers without breaking the law. This threshold ensures basic regulatory compliance, yet it fails to account for the dense, demanding reality of the actual economy workers navigate every day. Treating this legal floor as a comprehensive labor strategy creates a severe corporate blind spot. This hidden liability will increasingly threaten the viability of any business operating in the modern global market. The alternative to that legal floor is a metric based on human requirement, the living wage. This chart calculates a living wage, building on non-negotiable family costs: housing, food, healthcare, clothing, education, transportation, and emergency savings. Excluding luxury, this column represents the threshold of human dignity. Next to the Philippine minimum wage, the massive shortfall is immediately obvious. The negative space between these two columns is the gap. It is the exact monetary difference between what the law requires and what human survival demands. When a business underpays, the financial burden of that gap does not disappear. It is shifted directly onto the shoulders of the worker, who must stretch an inadequate paycheck across rising market prices. This creates an invisible ledger, and the debts on that ledger inevitably bleed back into the company's own operations. The first major unrecorded liability is turnover. Employees constantly leave in search of a wage that actually covers their bills, forcing the company to spend continuously on hiring and retraining. Then come the compounding liabilities. A workforce stretched to its financial breaking point experiences chronic absenteeism, while focus is lost to the stress of basic survival. The minimum wage strategy triggers a cycle of unrecorded financial hemorrhage that systematically destroys a business from the inside out. Global markets are catching on to this. International buyers and investors are now actively auditing suppliers to expose these hidden labor liabilities. They are relying on strict international frameworks, like the Fair Labor Association and the Business and Human Rights Resource Center, to evaluate corporate partners. At the top of these mandates are the UN Guiding Principles on Business and Human Rights, which establish the living wage as the essential baseline for responsible business conduct. Because global markets now demand living wage compliance, adhering strictly to local minimum wage laws is no longer enough to keep a supplier internationally competitive. Modern social sustainability requires a pivot in perspective. A living wage represents a strategic investment in workforce stability. Companies that close the wage gap see concrete returns. They attract highly skilled talent, they foster deep relationships within their operating communities, and they secure major international contracts. Businesses that stubbornly hide behind the legal minimum floor while their employees struggle to feed their families are operating unsustainably. They are carrying a massive debt in human cost, and eventually that debt will find its way onto their official balance sheets. Take a hard look at your own corporate payroll. Are you paying just enough for your workers to survive, or are you investing enough for them to live?